The morning sun was just beginning to peek through the clouds as Flight 347 prepared for takeoff from John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. Sarah Martinez adjusted her navy blue uniform and checked her reflection one last time in the small mirror near the galley. At 32 years old, she had been working as a flight attendant for American Airlines for 7 long years. She had seen it all during her time in the skies, but something about today felt different. Sarah walked through the first-class cabin doing her final safety checks before departure. The leather seats were filled with the usual mix of business travelers and wealthy passengers heading to Los Angeles. Most of them were already buried in their laptops or phones, barely acknowledging her presence as she moved through the aisle. This was normal for Sarah. She had learned long ago that many first-class passengers saw flight attendants as invisible servants rather than real people with their own dreams and struggles. As she made her way down the aisle, her eyes landed on seat 2A. A young black man sat there staring intensely at his laptop screen. His brow was furrowed with worry and stress lines were visible around his eyes, despite his youthful appearance. Sarah guessed he was probably in his early 30s, but the weight of whatever was troubling him made him look older. His expensive suit was perfectly tailored, and his gold watch caught the light as he typed furiously on his keyboard. The man was Marcus Williams, though Sarah did not know his name yet. Marcus was the founder and CEO of Connect Local, a technology company that had revolutionized how people found local services and small businesses in their neighborhoods. His app had over 5 million users and had made him wealthy beyond his childhood dreams. But right now, none of that success mattered because his entire world was falling apart. Marcus had barely slept in 3 days. His biggest competitor, TechGent Industries, had somehow gotten access to his proprietary code and launched a nearly identical app just 2 weeks ago. They had unlimited funding and were offering the same services for free, while Marcus charged small fees to keep his business running. Already he was losing users by the thousands each day. Tomorrow he had to face his investors and board members in Los Angeles to explain how this had happened and convince them not to pull their funding. Sarah noticed that Marcus had ordered the premium breakfast meal, but it sat untouched on his tray table. The scrambled eggs were getting cold, and the fresh fruit was starting to look wilted. He kept pushing the food around with his fork, while his other hand scrolled through endless emails on his phone. Each message seemed to bring worse news than the last. User complaints were pouring in asking why they should pay for his app when they could get the same thing free elsewhere. The plane began to taxi toward the runway, and Sarah took her position for the safety demonstration. She went through the familiar motions of showing passengers how to fasten their seatbelts and pointing out the emergency exits. Her voice was clear and professional as she explained the safety procedures, but her mind kept wandering back to the worried man in seat 2A. During her 7 years of flying, Sarah had developed a sixth sense about passengers. She could usually tell when someone was having a bad day or dealing with serious problems. Something about Marcus Williams radiated stress and anxiety, even though he was trying hard to hide it behind his professional appearance. His leg bounced nervously under the tray table, and he kept checking his watch as if time was running out for something important. As the plane lifted off into the cloudy New York sky, Sarah began preparing for the meal service. The flight to Los Angeles would take 6 hours, and she wanted to make sure all her passengers were comfortable. But she could not stop thinking about the untouched breakfast and the man who looked like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Little did she know that a simple act of kindness was about to change both their lives forever. 2 hours into the flight, Sarah was making her routine rounds through the cabin, checking on passengers and collecting empty meal trays. The airplane hummed steadily as it cruised at 35,000 feet above the American countryside. Most passengers in first class had finished eating and were now working on their laptops or settling in for naps during the long journey to Los Angeles. When Sarah reached row 2, she noticed that Marcus Williams still had not touched his breakfast. The eggs had grown completely cold and formed a rubbery skin on top. The toast was hard, and the orange juice sat warm and unappealing in its plastic cup. Marcus himself looked even more stressed than before. His eyes were red from staring at his computer screen, and his shoulders were hunched with tension. Sarah had seen this many times before. Successful business people who were so worried about their problems that they forgot to take care of themselves. She knew from experience that stress could make people sick, especially during long flights. The recycled cabin air and pressure changes were hard enough on the body without adding hunger and dehydration to the mix. As she collected the untouched tray, Sarah felt a wave of sympathy for this stranger. She did not know what was troubling him, but she could see that he was suffering. In her years of flying, she had learned that sometimes the smallest gestures could make the biggest difference in someone's day. Her own life had been touched by unexpected kindness from strangers during her most difficult moments. Sarah remembered her own lunch bag stored in the crew area. Before leaving for work that morning, her 8-year-old daughter, Emma, had helped her pack it. Emma always insisted on adding something special to make her Mother's Day better. Today, she had carefully selected a perfectly ripe banana from their kitchen counter and placed a small yellow smiley face sticker on it. The memory made Sarah smile despite the serious atmosphere in the cabin. Emma believed that bananas had magical powers to cheer people up. She had learned this from her grandmother, who used to say that bananas were nature's perfect food because they gave you energy and made you happy at the same time. It was silly childhood wisdom, but Sarah had always found comfort in her daughter's innocent optimism. Without stopping to think about whether it was appropriate, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She retrieved the banana from her lunch bag and walked back to Marcus's seat. He was so absorbed in reading what looked like legal documents on his laptop that he did not notice her approach. Sarah gently placed the banana on his tray table next to his closed laptop. The yellow fruit looked bright and cheerful against the dark surface. The smiley face sticker that Emma had applied was slightly crooked, but somehow that made it even more endearing. Marcus looked up in surprise. His tired eyes focused on the unexpected gift and then traveled up to meet Sarah's warm brown eyes. She was smiling at him with genuine kindness that he had not experienced in weeks of dealing with lawyers and angry investors. "You look like you could use some natural energy," Sarah said softly. Her voice was gentle and motherly despite her professional demeanor. "My daughter always says bananas have magical powers to make people feel better. She tells me they are full of good vitamins that help your brain work better when you are worried about something important." Marcus stared at the banana for a long moment. When was the last time someone had shown him such simple, thoughtful kindness? In his world of high-stakes business deals and corporate competition, people usually wanted something from him. Money or connections or access to his success. But this flight attendant was giving him something without expecting anything in return. The smiley face sticker seemed to grin up at him from the banana peel. For the first time in days, Marcus felt his facial muscles relax slightly. The gesture was so unexpected and pure that it cut through all his stress and anxiety like a ray of sunshine breaking through storm clouds. "Thank you," he said quietly, looking up at Sarah with genuine gratitude. "I cannot remember the last time someone did something this nice for me." His voice was hoarse from exhaustion, but there was real emotion in his words. Marcus held the banana in his hands and slowly peeled away the yellow skin. The fruit was perfectly ripe, just as Sarah had promised. As he took his first bite, he realized how hungry he actually was. His stomach had been twisted in knots for days from stress, and he had forgotten what it felt like to eat something that actually tasted good. The natural sweetness of the banana seemed to wake up his taste buds and remind his body that it needed fuel to function. The smiley face sticker now lay on his tray table, grinning up at him. Such a simple thing, but it made him think about his own childhood when his grandmother used to pack his lunch for school. She always included little notes or drawings to make him smile during difficult days. He had not thought about those memories in years because his adult life had become so serious and complicated. 20 minutes later, Sarah returned to check on the passengers in his section. She was carrying a small tray with coffee and water refills for anyone who wanted them. When she reached Marcus's row, she noticed that the banana was completely gone, and he looked slightly more relaxed than before. His shoulders were not as tense, and some of the worry lines around his eyes had softened. That was exactly what I needed, Marcus said as Sarah approached. He closed his laptop and gave her his full attention for the first time since boarding the plane. Your daughter was right about the magical powers. I feel more human now than I have in days. There was genuine warmth in his voice that had not been there during their first interaction. Sarah smiled and refilled his water glass. She had learned over the years that sometimes passengers needed someone to talk to during long flights. The confined space and extended time together created opportunities for conversations that might never happen on the ground. Something about being suspended between earth and sky made people more open to connecting with strangers. You looked like you were carrying the whole world on your shoulders, Sarah said gently. I have been flying for 7 years, and I can usually tell when someone is going through a really tough time. If you want to talk about it, I am a good listener. My job is to make sure passengers are comfortable, and sometimes that means more than just serving food and drinks. Marcus was surprised by her offer. In his business world, people rarely ask how he was feeling without wanting something in return. But Sarah seemed genuinely interested in his well-being as a human being, rather than as a successful CEO who might be useful to know. The kindness in her eyes reminded him of his grandmother, who had always been able to make him feel better just by listening. I own a technology company, Marcus began slowly. We created an app that helps people find local businesses and services in their neighborhoods. It was my dream project, and it became more successful than I ever imagined. But now, the huge corporation has copied our idea, and they are trying to destroy us by offering everything for free until we go out of business. Sarah listened carefully as Marcus explained his situation. She could hear the pain in his voice as he described watching his life's work being threatened by competitors with deeper pockets and fewer morals. His passion for his business was obvious even through his exhaustion and fear. That sounds incredibly unfair, Sarah said. You built something good that helps people, and now someone is trying to steal it from you. But you know what I have learned in my life. Sometimes, when things look hopeless, that is exactly when something unexpected happens to change everything for the better. Marcus looked at her with curiosity. What do you mean? He asked. Sarah settled into the empty seat across the aisle for a moment. She glanced around to make sure no other passengers needed attention before continuing. 3 years ago, I was working 2 jobs and going to night school to study business. I wanted to start my own catering company, but I could barely afford rent, let alone business startup costs. I felt like my dreams were impossible. Then one day I was serving on a flight to Chicago, and I met a passenger who was a successful restaurant owner. We started talking just like we are now, and she ended up mentoring me. She taught me about business planning and helped me understand that dreams take time, but they are not impossible if you keep working toward them. Marcus found himself leaning forward, interested in her story. What happened with your catering business? He asked. I am still working toward it, Sarah admitted. I have been saving money for 4 years now, and I am getting closer every month. I specialize in comfort food recipes that remind people of home. My grandmother taught me that food is about more than nutrition. It is about love and connection, and making people feel cared for. As Sarah spoke, Marcus began to see her differently. She was not just a flight attendant serving passengers. She was an entrepreneur with dreams and determination, just like him. Despite working in a service job that many people looked down on, she had maintained her optimism and continued pursuing her goals even when progress was slow. The conversation between Marcus and Sarah continued as the plane flew steadily westward over the vast American landscape. Other first-class passengers were sleeping or absorbed in their own activities, giving them privacy to talk freely. Marcus found himself opening up to this kind stranger in ways he had not done with anyone in months. I grew up in Detroit, Marcus said quietly. My grandmother raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. She worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat, but she never complained. Every night she would cook these amazing meals from whatever ingredients she could afford. She said that sharing food was how families showed love for each other. Sarah felt a connection to his story that surprised her. My grandmother was the same way, she replied. She lived with us when I was growing up in Phoenix. She came from Mexico with nothing, but she knew how to make the most incredible dishes from simple ingredients. She taught me that cooking is not just about feeding people. It is about creating memories and bringing joy into their lives. Marcus smiled for the first time since boarding the plane. "It sounds like our grandmothers would have been great friends," he said. "Mine used to say that food was the universal language that could bring any group of people together." That belief actually inspired my first business idea. I wanted to create an app that connected people with homemade meals from their neighbors. "That is exactly what my catering dream is about," Sarah exclaimed. "I want to specialize in comfort foods that make people feel like they are eating at their grandmother's table. I have been developing recipes that combine traditional Mexican flavors with American comfort food classics. My daughter Emma is my official taste tester, and she gives everything a thumbs up or thumbs down rating." As they talked, both Marcus and Sarah realized how much they had in common despite their very different backgrounds. They had both lost important family members at young ages. They had both been raised by strong grandmothers who taught them the value of hard work and determination. Most importantly, they both believed that business should be about more than just making money. It should be about creating connections and improving people's lives. Marcus learned that Sarah was a single mother who had been working multiple jobs since Emma was born. She had never married Emma's father, who left when he found out about the pregnancy. Instead of giving up on her dreams, Sarah had decided to work twice as hard to create a better life for her daughter. "I take night classes at the community college when I am not flying," Sarah explained. "I am studying business administration and marketing. It takes me longer than most students because I can only take 1 or 2 classes per semester, but I am determined to finish. Emma helps me study by making flashcards and quizzing me on business terms." Marcus was impressed by her dedication and reminded of his own struggles as a young entrepreneur. "I started my company in my grandmother's basement," he told her. "I had no money for office space, so I worked 16-hour days, surrounded by her old furniture and family photos. She would bring me sandwiches and coffee while I coded late into the night." She died just 6 months before the app launched successfully. Both of them felt a moment of sadness thinking about the family members who had believed in their dreams but had not lived to see them come true. Their grandmothers had planted seeds of ambition and kindness that continued to grow even after they were gone. "The airline food industry is terrible," Sarah said, changing the subject to something lighter. "Everything is processed and tasteless. I always pack my own meals when I fly because I cannot stand eating the same bland food I serve to passengers all day long. If I ever get my catering business started, I want to partner with airlines to provide real homemade meals to travelers." Marcus looked at her with new interest. "That is actually a brilliant business idea," he said. "Airlines are always looking for ways to improve passenger satisfaction, and food quality is one of their biggest complaints. You could start small with private jets and corporate flights, then expand to commercial airlines once you prove the concept works." As Marcus listened to Sarah talk about her dreams of bringing real homemade food to airline passengers, something clicked in his mind. He had been so focused on the technical aspects of his business problems that he had forgotten the most important element that made his company special. It was not just about connecting people with services. It was about celebrating the human stories behind those services. The banana Sarah had given him sat as a reminder on his tray table. Such a simple gesture, but it had accomplished something that weeks of expensive consulting and legal advice could not do. It had reminded him why he started his business in the first place: to help real people like Sarah, who had valuable skills and dreams, but needed better ways to connect with customers who would appreciate what they offered. Marcus pulled out a napkin and started writing notes as ideas flooded his mind. What if instead of just copying what his competitors were doing, he created something completely different? Something that focused on the human element that big corporations could never replicate, no matter how much money they spent. Sarah watched with curiosity as Marcus scribbled frantically on the napkin. His whole demeanor had changed from defeated and worried to energized and excited. Whatever idea had struck him was powerful enough to transform his mood completely. "What are you thinking about?" Sarah asked. Marcus looked up at her with bright eyes. "You just gave me the solution to my business problem," he said. "Not just your catering idea, although that is brilliant too. You made me remember what my company is really about. We are not just a technology platform. We are a celebration of people like you who bring joy and skill and care to their work." He turned the napkin toward her so she could see his rough sketch. It showed a simple app interface, but instead of focusing on services and prices, it highlighted the stories of the people providing those services. Customer reviews would not just rate the quality of work, but would share personal stories about how the service provider had made a difference in their lives. "My competitor can copy my technology," Marcus explained excitedly, "but they cannot copy authentic human connections. They are a huge corporation that treats service providers like interchangeable parts. I want to build a platform that celebrates individuals and helps customers understand that they are not just buying a service. They are supporting someone's dreams and livelihood." Sarah felt a thrill of excitement as she understood his vision. "It would be like having a neighborhood where everyone knows each other's stories," she said. "Customers would choose service providers not just based on price, but because they want to support people they care about. A single mother trying to start her own cleaning business, or a retired carpenter who loves teaching young people his skills." "Exactly," Marcus said, "and we could have features that let customers contribute directly to service providers' goals. If someone is saving money to start their own restaurant, customers could help them reach that goal. If a house cleaner is taking night classes to become a nurse, customers could support their education." The idea was revolutionary in its simplicity. Instead of competing on price and features, Marcus would compete on values and human connection. Big corporations could offer services cheaper, but they could never offer the personal relationships and community support that his platform would provide. Sarah saw immediately how this could help her own dreams. Instead of just offering catering services through a generic platform, she could share her story about honoring her grandmother's recipes and working toward financial independence for her daughter. Customers would not just be buying food. They would be supporting a single mother's journey toward entrepreneurship. "But how does this help with your immediate problem?" Sarah asked. "You still have to face your investors tomorrow and convince them not to abandon your company." Marcus grinned and continued writing on napkins. "That is the beautiful part," he said. "I am not going to defend my old business model. I am going to present them with something completely new, something that turns my biggest weakness into my greatest strength." He explained that his competitor's decision to offer free services actually proved his point about the problems with the current system. When companies competed only on price, they had to cut costs somewhere. Usually that meant paying service providers less or treating them poorly. His platform would charge fair prices and pass more money directly to service providers, while also giving them tools to build their own customer relationships. This could work for any service industry, Sarah realized. Hairstylists could share their artistic vision. Personal trainers could tell their fitness journey stories. Even flight attendants like me could offer specialized services, like trip planning or travel consulting based on our experience. Marcus nodded enthusiastically. "We could start with a few key industries and expand gradually. The technology part is actually simple. The hard part is finding the right people to feature. People like you who have genuine passion for their work and interesting stories to share." As the plane continued its journey westward, both Marcus and Sarah felt like they were seeing their futures more clearly than they had in years. The random act of kindness that brought them together was revealing possibilities neither of them had imagined when they boarded the flight that morning. The captain's voice came over the intercom announcing that they were flying through some mild turbulence and asking all passengers to return to their seats and fasten their seatbelts. The plane began to rock gently from side to side as they hit pockets of unstable air. Some passengers looked nervous, and a few called for flight attendant assistance. Sarah immediately switched into professional mode. She moved efficiently through the cabin, checking that everyone had their seatbelts properly fastened and reassuring worried travelers. Marcus watched in admiration as she transformed from the friendly woman he had been talking with into a skilled professional who knew exactly how to handle the situation. "The turbulence is very mild," she announced to the cabin in a calm, confident voice. "This happens frequently during afternoon flights over the Rocky Mountains. We should be through this rough air in about 10 minutes. If anyone needs anything, please press your call button." and I will be happy to help you." One elderly woman in row 4 was gripping her armrests with white knuckles and breathing rapidly. Sarah knelt beside her seat and spoke quietly. "I know this feels scary, but I promise you we are completely safe. I have flown through turbulence like this thousands of times. Would you like me to show you some breathing exercises that can help you feel more relaxed?" Marcus could not hear the entire conversation, but he saw Sarah spend several minutes with the frightened passenger teaching her how to breathe slowly and deeply. By the time she moved on, the woman was smiling and had released her death grip on the armrests. In row 7, a businessman was complaining loudly about spilling coffee on his shirt because of the plane's movement. Instead of getting defensive, Sarah apologized sincerely and offered to help him clean the stain. She brought him club soda and stain removal wipes, and even offered to have the shirt professionally cleaned at the airline's expense when they landed. A young mother in row 5 was struggling to keep her toddler calm during the bumpy ride. The child was crying and trying to climb out of his car seat. Sarah appeared with a small bag of toys and crackers that she kept for exactly these situations. Within minutes, she had the little boy laughing and playing quietly while his mother looked on gratefully. Marcus realized he was witnessing something remarkable. Sarah was not just doing her job. She was creating positive experiences for people during a stressful situation. Each passenger received exactly the type of help they needed, whether it was practical assistance, emotional support, or simple kindness. When the turbulence ended and the seatbelt sign turned off, Sarah returned to check on Marcus. She looked slightly tired from dealing with multiple passenger concerns, but she was still smiling warmly. "That was incredible," Marcus said. "I have flown hundreds of times, and I have never seen a flight attendant handle turbulence like that. You turned what could have been a miserable experience into something positive for everyone." Sarah shrugged modestly. "It is just part of the job," she said. "When people are scared or uncomfortable, my role is to help them feel better. Every passenger deserves to feel cared for during their journey." But Marcus could see that what Sarah did went far beyond basic job requirements. She had genuine emotional intelligence and natural leadership skills that could not be taught in any training program. She understood how to read people's needs and respond appropriately to each individual situation. An idea that had been forming in Marcus's mind suddenly crystallized into a concrete proposal. He looked at Sarah seriously and made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "I want to offer you a partnership, Sarah," he said quietly. "Not just as a customer of your future catering business. I want you to become my business partner and help me build this new version of my company." Sarah stared at him in shock. "What do you mean?" she asked. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her his company's current app interface. "This is what we have now," he explained. "It works fine, but it is boring and impersonal. I want to completely redesign it to focus on people and their stories. You would be perfect to lead that effort because you understand better than anyone how to connect with people and make them feel valued." "But I do not have any technology experience," Sarah protested. "That is exactly why I need you," Marcus replied. "I can handle the technical development, but I need someone who understands the human side of business. Someone who knows how to make people feel special and appreciated. You just proved during that turbulence that you have those skills in abundance." He explained his vision in more detail. Sarah would become Chief Customer Experience Officer for his redesigned company. She would help identify and recruit service providers who had compelling personal stories. She would also design the customer interface to focus on building relationships rather than just completing transactions. The partnership would allow Sarah to pursue her catering dreams with full company support. She could use the platform to build her own customer base while also helping other food service providers do the same. The company would provide startup funding for her commercial kitchen and help her develop her business plan. "I cannot believe this is happening," Sarah said softly. "When I woke up this morning, I was just going to work another routine flight. Now you are offering me the chance to completely change my life." Marcus smiled. "Sometimes the best opportunities come from the most unexpected places," he said. "That banana you gave me was not just a snack. It was a reminder that business success comes from treating people with genuine care and respect. I need someone on my team who understands that instinctively." Sarah felt her heart racing as she tried to process Marcus's incredible offer. Partnership in a technology company was so far beyond anything she had ever imagined for herself that it seemed almost too good to be true. She had spent years dreaming of starting her own small catering business, and suddenly this stranger was offering her the chance to help build something much bigger. "I need to understand exactly what you are proposing," Sarah said carefully. She had learned from her business classes to ask detailed questions before making any major decisions. What would my responsibilities be, and how would the partnership work legally and financially? Marcus appreciated her practical approach. It showed that she was serious about business and not just excited by the glamorous idea of being an entrepreneur. He pulled out a notebook and began sketching out the basic structure of what he had in mind. "You would own 20% of the new company," he explained. "That gives you a real stake in our success and means you benefit directly from any profits we make. Your primary job would be developing our customer and service provider relationships. You would also lead our marketing efforts because you understand how to communicate with people authentically." Sarah listened intently as Marcus described the company's current financial situation. Despite the recent challenges from competitors, they still had significant revenue and over 3 million active users. The investor meeting tomorrow was crucial, but Marcus felt confident that his new vision would convince them to continue their support. The partnership would include a guaranteed salary that was significantly higher than what Sarah currently earned as a flight attendant. This would allow her to quit her airline job and focus full-time on building the business. The company would also provide startup funding for her catering venture, which would operate as a subsidiary business under the main platform. "What about my daughter?" Sarah asked. "Emma is my first priority, and I need to make sure any career change is good for her too." Marcus smiled. "Family should always come first," he said. "We would structure your work schedule to accommodate Emma's school schedule and activities. You could work from home when needed, and we would provide childcare support during business travel or long work days. I want you to be successful as a mother and as a business partner." The more they talked, the more excited Sarah became about the possibilities. She would be able to pursue her culinary dreams while also learning about technology and business development. Most importantly, she would have the financial security to provide a better life for Emma, while still being present for all the important moments of her childhood. But Sarah also felt scared about leaving the stability of her airline job. She had worked for 7 years to build seniority and benefits that provided security for her small family. Starting a new career always involved risks, especially in the competitive technology industry. "What if it does not work out?" Sarah asked. "What if the investors decide not to support your new vision? Or what if customers do not respond the way we hope they will?" Marcus understood her concerns completely. He had faced similar fears when he first started his company and left his secure job as a software engineer. Every entrepreneur had to balance optimism with realistic planning for potential challenges. "We will have legal contracts that protect both of us," he assured her. "If the business fails, or if we decide the partnership is not working, you would receive severance pay that gives you time to find another job. You would also keep your ownership percentage in the company, so if it eventually becomes successful, you would still benefit from that growth." They spent the remaining flight time working through the details of their potential partnership. Marcus showed Sarah his company's financial records and explained how the technology platform currently operated. Sarah shared her detailed business plan for her catering company and her ideas for improving customer service in the broader service industry. By the time the captain announced their descent into Los Angeles, both Marcus and Sarah felt like they had known each other for years rather than hours. Their conversation had revealed shared values and complementary skills that made their partnership feel natural and promising. As the plane prepared for landing, Sarah made her decision. "I want to do this," she said with determination in her voice. "It is scary to leave everything I know, but I believe in what we can build together." "When do we start?" Marcus grinned and pulled out his business card. "We start tomorrow morning," he said. "Come with me to the investor meeting. I want them to meet you and understand that our new direction is not just an idea. We already have the perfect person to make it happen." The next morning, Marcus walked into the boardroom of Pinnacle Investments, feeling more confident than he had in weeks. The sleek conference room overlooked downtown Los Angeles and was filled with 12 serious-looking investors and board members who controlled the future of his company. These were the same people who had been questioning his leadership ability and considering withdrawing their financial support. Sarah sat in the back corner of the room wearing her best business suit and trying to calm her nerves. She had never been in such an intimidating corporate environment before. The marble conference table alone probably cost more than her annual salary as a flight attendant. But Marcus had insisted that she needed to be there as his new business partner, and she trusted his judgment. "Good morning, everyone," Marcus began as he stood at the front of the room. "I know you asked me here today to explain how our company plans to compete with Attendant Industries and their new free service platform. I am going to do something different instead. I am going to show you why trying to compete with them using their methods would be the worst mistake we could make." The investors looked puzzled and slightly annoyed. They had expected Marcus to present a detailed plan for matching his competitors' prices and features. Instead, he seemed to be suggesting they should not compete at all. Marcus clicked to his first slide, which showed a simple photograph of a banana with a smiley face sticker on it. "Yesterday, during my flight to Los Angeles, something happened that completely changed my understanding of what our company should be doing. A flight attendant gave me this banana when she noticed I was too stressed to eat my meal. It was a simple gesture, but it reminded me of something crucial that I had forgotten." He told the complete story of his conversation with Sarah and how her act of kindness had sparked his new vision for the company. Several investors checked their phones or looked at each other skeptically. They had expected charts and financial projections, not personal stories about fruit and flight attendants. "The woman who gave me that banana is Sarah Martinez," Marcus continued, gesturing toward the back of the room. "She is going to be our new Chief Customer Experience Officer, and I want you to meet her because she represents everything our company should aspire to become." Sarah felt her face flush red as every person in the room turned to look at her. She had not expected to be put on the spot like this, but she stood up and gave a small wave. Some of the investors looked confused about why a flight attendant was being introduced as a company executive. Marcus continued his presentation by explaining how Sarah's approach to customer service had inspired his new business model. Instead of competing on price and features, they would compete on human connection and authentic relationships. The platform would celebrate service providers as individuals with unique stories and dreams rather than treating them as interchangeable commodities. "This is all very touching," one investor interrupted, "but how does it solve our revenue problem? Attendant is stealing our customers by offering everything for free. Heartwarming stories about bananas are not going to pay our expenses or generate profits for our shareholders." Marcus had anticipated this objection and was ready with his response. "You are absolutely right that we need to maintain profitability," he said. "But I believe our new approach will actually increase our revenue rather than decrease it. Let me show you why." He clicked to a slide showing customer retention statistics from companies that focused on personal relationships versus those that competed primarily on price. Businesses that created emotional connections with customers had significantly higher customer loyalty and were able to charge premium prices for their services. When customers choose service providers based on personal stories and values, they are much less likely to switch to competitors, Marcus explained. They are also willing to pay higher prices because they understand they are supporting someone's dreams and livelihood rather than just purchasing a commodity service. He showed examples of successful companies that had built their brands around celebrating individual employees and service providers. Customers became emotionally invested in these businesses and often chose them even when cheaper alternatives were available. "Our new platform will allow customers to contribute directly to service providers' goals," Marcus continued. "If a house cleaner is saving money to start her own business, customers can help her reach that goal. If a handyman is taking night classes to become an electrician, customers can support his education. This creates loyalty that no free service can match." Sarah watched the investors' faces change as they began to understand the business potential of Marcus's vision. The initial skepticism was being replaced by interest and curiosity. They started asking detailed questions about implementation and market research. Marcus invited Sarah to join him at the front of the room to answer questions about the customer service aspects of their plan. Despite her nervousness, she spoke passionately about the importance of treating service providers and customers as real people with individual needs and stories. The presentation lasted for 2 hours as investors asked increasingly sophisticated questions about the business model and growth projections. By the end of the meeting, the atmosphere in the room had completely changed from hostile to enthusiastic. The lead investor stood up and shook hands with both Marcus and Sarah. "This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking that made us want to invest in your company in the first place," he said. "You have taken a serious challenge and turned it into an opportunity to build something completely unique in the marketplace." 6 months later, Sarah stood in her brand new commercial kitchen, wearing a chef's coat with her name embroidered in golden letters. The spacious facility was everything she had dreamed of during her years of working double shifts and taking night classes. Stainless steel counters gleamed under bright lights, and professional-grade ovens lined the walls. The smell of fresh herbs and spices filled the air as she prepared meals for 3 different catering orders. The kitchen was located in a converted warehouse that also housed the headquarters of Connect Local, which had been renamed to Community Connect to reflect its new mission. Through the large windows, Sarah could see Marcus and their team of 15 employees working at computers and whiteboards covered with plans for expanding their platform to new cities. Sarah's catering business had grown beyond her wildest expectations. The Community Connect platform had introduced her to hundreds of customers who were drawn to her story of a single mother pursuing her culinary dreams while honoring her grandmother's traditional recipes. Her fusion of Mexican and American comfort foods had become so popular that she was booked solid for the next 3 months. But more importantly, Sarah had discovered that she loved the business development side of entrepreneurship just as much as cooking. As Chief Customer Experience Officer for Community Connect, she spent half her time working with service providers to help them tell their stories effectively and build strong customer relationships. The other half she devoted to her catering business, which served as a model for other food entrepreneurs on the platform. Emma, now 10 years old, often came to the office after school to do her homework while her mother worked. She had become the unofficial taste tester for both Sarah's catering menu and the snacks provided in the company break room. The employees adored her, and she had appointed herself as the office morale coordinator, making sure everyone celebrated birthdays and achievements properly. The Community Connect platform had grown to over 8 million users across 15 major cities. The company's focus on human stories and authentic relationships had proven to be exactly what customers wanted in an increasingly impersonal digital world. Service providers on the platform earned an average of 30% more than those using traditional booking services because customers were willing to pay premium prices for personalized service from people they felt connected to. Marcus walked into the kitchen carrying a frame containing the banana peel with Emma's original smiley face sticker. This artifact from their first meeting had become the unofficial symbol of their company and was displayed prominently in their main conference room. Whenever new employees or investors asked about the company's origins, Marcus would tell the story of how a simple act of kindness had transformed both their lives. "The investors want to discuss our expansion into international markets," Marcus told Sarah as he helped himself to a sample of her latest creation, which was a Mexican chocolate cake with cinnamon frosting. "They are particularly interested in your idea about partnering with airlines to provide authentic local cuisine to international travelers." Sarah smiled as she watched him enjoy her dessert. That idea had evolved from her original frustration with bland airline food into a comprehensive business plan for bringing regional specialties to air travelers. Several major airlines had already expressed interest in pilot programs that would feature local chefs and their signature dishes on flights to specific destinations. The success of Community Connect had attracted attention from major technology companies who wanted to acquire them for enormous sums of money. But both Marcus and Sarah were committed to maintaining their independence so they could continue focusing on their mission of celebrating individual entrepreneurs rather than treating them as data points in a corporate algorithm. Sarah's personal life had also transformed dramatically. She had been able to buy a beautiful house with a large kitchen where she could experiment with new recipes. Emma now attended a private school where she was thriving academically and had joined the debate team. Most importantly, Sarah no longer worried constantly about money or job security. The success had not changed Sarah's fundamental kindness and generosity. She used her platform to mentor other single mothers who were trying to start their own businesses. She also established a scholarship fund at her local community college to help working parents afford business education classes. Marcus had overcome his crisis with Techgent Industries by refusing to compete on their terms and instead creating something entirely unique. His company was now valued at over $200 million and was considered a leader in the emerging field of relationship-based commerce. But he remained focused on the human element that had made their success possible. As Sarah finished preparing her latest catering order, she reflected on how much her life had changed since that morning when she decided to give a stressed businessman a banana with her daughter's smiley face sticker. That simple gesture of kindness had not only saved Marcus's business, but had also launched her own entrepreneurial journey. The banana peel in its frame served as a daily reminder that the most powerful business strategies often come from the most basic human impulses. Treating people with kindness and respect was not just the right thing to do. It was also the foundation for building lasting success in any industry. Emma burst through the kitchen door with her backpack full of school books and her face bright with excitement. "Mom," she called out, "I got an A on my business presentation about your company. My teacher said that your story proves that dreams really can come true if you work hard and treat people nicely." Sarah hugged her daughter tightly and smiled at Marcus, who was grinning proudly. Sometimes the best lessons in business and life came from the wisdom of children who understood instinctively that success meant more than just making money. It meant creating a world where everyone had the opportunity to pursue their dreams while helping others achieve theirs too.